In 2017 alone, there were over 70,000 opioid drug overdoses. Recovery is tough, and for many, calling on faith and a higher power are part of the rehab process. For a while, our next guest could not practice what he preached. Although he was the shepherd leading a large church congregation on how to live a better life, he was hiding a big secret. So what was the so-called coming to Jesus moment that finally set him free and on a course to help others? Pastor Brandon Holt is the author of Preaching Under the Influence. If your New Year's resolution was to get clean, he's walked a mile in your shoes and wants to help you go the distance to recovery. Good morning and welcome back.
How are you, Deborah?
Good. All right. So around the holidays, a lot of us had the best of intentions with those resolutions. A lot of people facing addiction thought, let's just tie one on for the holidays and then we're going to start the process of recovery. So much easier said than done.
Yes.
You had a life that seemingly did everything right growing up. You grew up in the church. You started preaching early. Good family, the whole bit. What took you off course and created the addict?
Well, I had the back surgery, and when I had back surgery, they prescribed opioid medication to me. When they prescribed the medication, it was to treat my back injury, but it quickly transitioned into a dependence that I had on it, physical reasons, and it became emotional. And then I started using just to function, no longer to treat the pain. And so that kind of segued me into depending on a substance to function, to where I couldn't function without it.
And you lead to a point where so many people will sit in judgment of a drug addict. And there's so many ways that we can get there. And I think drug addiction is one of the most evil things that exist. But not your attention, wasn't thinking about it, but you knew when you hit that drug that it felt good, and that you had that prescription that almost allowed you to use it. At what point did you actually realize, okay, I can't say this is a prescription, it's okay anymore?
Well, Deborah, anybody can get hooked on drugs. Doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your social status.
DNA, any of it.
Any of that. So in my case, people use drugs for 4 reasons: out of curiosity, to feel good, to feel better, and to do better. So at a really young age, you know, we start to become curious of things that we see. In my case, once I actually took the drug, I started to feel good. I felt euphoric, like I had never experienced before.
You were preaching, weren't you?
I was
got
preaching.
Better too, didn't
I got better. I was on cloud 9. So to feel good, to feel better. So at that point, my tolerance started to grow. And when my tolerance started to grow, one pill wouldn't do it. It took 3, 4, 5, 6. And then after a while, I needed it to function to do better. So those are the reasons that kind of...
It lies to you, right? It's good in the beginning.
It lies to you. It's good in the beginning. It makes you feel like you're in a good space. But then after when you look around you, your family's going down, your health is going down, your job is going down, and all of a sudden it just takes over.
What was your first indication that this is a problem?
My first indication was when I started sweating real bad, and I started stumbling on my words, and I couldn't sleep, and I started twitching at night. And then once I actually took the medication, it calmed me back down. And that's when I knew, okay, wait a second, I need this to actually level out, not to get high.
And behind the pulpit, you'd be preaching.
I was preaching.
You had your little glass of water behind
Deborah,
there.
I was preaching, I was smiling, I was quoting scriptures, and you know, all of the long, you know, I had a cup and I had some liquid coating in there laced with grape soda, because I was at a place where I needed it to function, and I wanted people to accept me and approve of me. So if I felt myself withdrawn in the pulpit, then I would just, you know, take a sip to kind of level me back out.
Then comes the vicious cycle. You need it, you need it, you need it. You got to pay for it, you got to pay for it, you got to pay for it. And so you fell into that trap as well. You had pills in the pulpit. You saw family members go away, and you know, this is what makes it so insidious, is that, you know, when you have children and things like that, they look at their parents and think, are you choosing the drug over me? And this is how powerful drugs can be. You can choose the drug over anything. You can choose it over food. You can choose it over anything. So what was your coming to Jesus moment where you dropped to your knees and you had to practice what you preach? You had to call on what you were asking other people to call on in times of trouble.
Right, and that's a great question. So the come to Jesus moment was when I thought I hit the rock bottom. And a lot of times, my rock bottom may not be someone else's perception of rock bottom. So I hit rock bottom, then I relapsed again. But once I lost everything, I lost my family, lost my church, lost my home, lost my car. I got a call from my son one day, and he said, "Dad, when you coming home?" And sometimes God uses people that we least expect to kind of open our eyes. And so when my son called me, something told me, I need to get home because he needs his father. And what I did that day is I picked up the phone and I called someone, because I've been hiding it forever. Wife didn't know, church didn't know. I called someone and I shared with them that I have an addiction, and that was the first step to recovery, is letting somebody know. You've got to let somebody know, because if you don't, you're going to continue to deteriorate internally, and everything around you is going to fall apart. So when I let somebody know, the change process started.
Yeah, the change process started, which doesn't mean it was easy.
Right,
but
right.
So, and I think so many people are, and I know there's somebody who's listening right now, who's an addict right now, who's trying to get the courage to step off and say, okay, I need to go get help. That looks scary to a lot of addicts, right? So when you decided to get help, what did that help look like, and what keeps you sober?
Well, what it looked like is you only have one life to live, and once you get to a place, there's 5 stages of change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. That action phase is where you say to yourself, okay, enough is enough, I have to go get help. What does that look like? Yes, you have to pick up the phone, but you have to acknowledge within yourself, I have a problem. And until you acknowledge that you have an issue, you're not going to go get the help. You can't listen to what other people say. You have to say within yourself, enough is enough, I have to go get help. So what I did, I actually contacted my psychiatrist, because I have a mental health disorder. I have bipolar disorder, which was induced by... Which is
what leads a lot of people into self-medicating,
That's right, and so I got on a medicated assistance to help kind of wean me off of the opioids, and so that's what led me into a life of recovery. I just went and found help, and I did what I had to do.
Yeah, and what you have to do now is share with people. That's what you do.
That's right.
That's part of recovery.
That's right.
But when you share with other people, it gives them hope, right? What do you want people to know? Again, that person who's watching right now that has a family member, or they're the ones who are struggling.
What I want people to know is that you can do it, you can make it, you can live to win. You only get one life to live.
Right.
This is all we get. So if you feel like you're in a place right now where you have no help around you, you've got to go find somebody, and you've got to go get help.
Yeah.
Because this is the only chance. This is the only chance that you have.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the most powerful person in your life is always you as the individual.
That's correct.
Sometimes we kind of throw it out there and say, "Here, you help me, you take care of it." But it starts with you, who are the most powerful person in your life, and that's the message of hope that you want through your book, Preaching Under the Influence. We know you have another book that you're working on coming out soon.
I do.
And so, thank you for that, Brandon. Thank you for
you.
coming forward, and thank you most of all for trying to help the next person.
And
to
thank you for
realize
having me,
their life.
Deborah.
All right.
All right.
To connect with Pastor Brandon Holt and for more on his book, Preaching Under the Influence, we have a link on greatdayhouston.com.